we can't ask them for their phone number. And I'm like, but you're asking them for $100,000? I only care about how to make money, commission checks, and dollar signs. Realized not only was I really good at it, there was just nothing else that got me high in the same way. Never, ever, ever wanted to manage a sales team. That was so uninteresting.
Why?
I just always thought that people that wanted to be managers were sales reps that were lazy.
Is that true?
They opened up an office in London.
They did it.
And I threw my hat in the ring, bought my ticket, sold all my stuff, and the world shut down. I went from a 5 days a week in the office in Chicago to I am sitting in this kitchen while my boyfriend is playing Call of Duty in the background. I suffered greatly from imposter syndrome. I still suffer from imposter syndrome. Moving to the UK was interesting. You guys say a lot of weird words. In America, everyone's a lot more direct. Can you buy today?
Not so much in Europe?
No.
Welcome to Sales Rewritten, the #1 podcast for sellers. No buzzwords, no fake hustle, just straight talk about what it really takes to succeed in sales. I'm Alex Woods, and every week I sit down with some of the brightest minds who are shaping this industry in their own way. Today's guest is one of those people. It's Frances Arville, someone who's built a successful sales career across 2 continents, having moved from the US to the UK in 2020. She's led and scaled international teams and worked with some of the biggest brands in SaaS, becoming a trusted mentor who's not afraid to shoot her shot. Today, we talk about the niche differences that exist between selling in the US and selling in Europe. The #1 thing reps shouldn't do if they want to get promoted, and why sales and dating aren't all that different. Let's get into it. First and foremost, Frances, welcome to the podcast. It is great to have you on. Let me start with this question. We've been asking it to all of our guests so far. When people ask you what you do for a living, what do you say and how do you describe it?
I am the head of sales at Zinc. We do background check software. And first and foremost, I help AEs become better world-class salespeople, both ideally selling internationally, and then hopefully helping people get ready for that next big play that they have, but within the ecosystem of just our company. So super excited to work with all the people that I've worked with over the years.
We've got a lot of ground to cover on this episode today, but it makes sense that we kind of go to your beginnings as a young salesperson out of college. And this was all back in what sort of year are we talking when you left college and started your first role?
December 2012, and then started pounding the streets all of January 2013 in the freezing cold, and then finally got a job February 2013.
Okay, so we're going back 12 years. This is where we're starting today's podcast. And you say freezing cold because this was in Chicago?
Correct.
Talk to us then about your decision to go into the world of sales. Was that by coincidence or by design?
Absolute coincidence. I, like many people, wanted to be a doctor, and then I realized math and science were hard. And then I wanted to be a lawyer, and then there were too many lawyers in the US, so scrap that. I studied psychology, marketing, didn't really know what I wanted to do. And then I realized that throughout college, the thing that I was really good at was definitely not school and doing retail, waiting tables, and I got a huge high off of that. So I was like, all right, well, how do I do that in big kid world? So started applying to a lot of marketing jobs first.
Right.
Realized I'm not creative. So then started applying to just top SaaS businesses in Chicago, and that's how I landed my first job at MSTS Online.
Wow.
13 years ago.
13 years ago. Do you remember it? Do you remember it well?
Despite my gray hair, yeah, vaguely.
Were you someone who always felt comfortable selling, always, being in conversation with people, asking questions?
So twofold, always been extroverted, always loved being the center of attention starved, pretty much. But then again, I was always doing retail. I was selling tons of denim. We had a monthly quota of a couple $100 per month sort of thing. But then throughout my entire college years, I was waiting tables. I used to work at a really high-end restaurant where I had to learn how to sell high-end whiskey.
Ooh.
And as a bouncy 21-year-old that has really only shot
Yeah.
shitty alcohol for several years. I didn't know what that looked like. So I thought, okay,
Yeah.
well, if I want to make money and I want to make tips in America, I better learn how to do it. So got really good at learning all about bourbon so that I could sell to all the highbrow people in downtown Chicago.
Nice. Park the sales questions for a sec. I want to know more about the whiskey side. And is that something? Do you develop a taste for this stuff?
Oh yeah, like love bourbon. I will down Scottish whiskey, love Japanese whiskey. Actually, one of the best whiskey bars is right around here. We can go after.
Hey, there we go. Now we're talking. So I had coffee recommendations earlier. Now we're getting whiskey spots, which is equally good. Take us back to that time then. You sort of in Chicago around 2013. You're kind of now taking your first steps into what is your career. At that point, did you think this is where I'm going to be? Like this is the career?
Definitely a job. 21, didn't really have anything else to compare it to. But one thing that really resonated with me was one of the sales managers, Kyle Kiefer, at the time, told everybody on day one, whatever you do, whatever you choose, stay here or wherever that first job is for a minimum of 3 to 4 years. And that just really stuck with me because his whole idea was if you stay for a couple months, you stay for a year, you don't actually have data to say what good looks like, what bad looks like. You've never seen the highs and lows of what actual sales or again, any industry is. So I thought, okay, I'm going to stick around for a minimum of 3 years. And I ended up staying there for almost 5 years. And I realized not only was I really good at it, but again, I loved being super competitive. I got high off of beating all the guys and the girls on my team. I loved seeing my name in lights.
Yeah.
There was just nothing else that got me high in the same way of hitting close one and hitting a gong.
Do you think it's necessary to have that competitive edge to be successful in sales?
I realize now, I used to think as a selfish individual contributor that yes, it was all about a dashboard. It was all about being number one. It was all about money. But I think now that I've transitioned to the sales side, I realized competitive could mean slightly different things to different people. I think instead of maybe competitive, while I do think a lot of those people do end up being successful, I look for some sort of hunger. What is the thing that makes you constantly hungry and thirsty? One of my big things that make me really excited is when I find out that my reps are buying houses or getting engaged and ultimately living beyond their means.
Yes, yeah. They've got the big adult milestones in their lives, which means presumably they're fully in on the job, at least during that period of time.
Correct.
Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah.
Okay.
And at 21, 22 years old with a very expensive whiskey taste, I needed to sell lots of things.
And I like that. And I think that's such good advice as well. The whole like give me 3 to 4 years, stick this out, and you will learn, everything that you need, I guess, to go on from here. Because I'm assuming average tenure for certainly those junior roles in sales is probably not 3 to 4 years. That sounds quite long. Like, I'm curious, did you outlast a lot of your peers and colleagues? Like when you look back at the 5 years you were there, how many of your day one colleagues were still with you?
There was that time of easily like 50% of people left, but of a lot of the people that really stuck by me and that were also very competitive and also did really well, a lot of them also did the whole 4 to almost 7 years. I actually know a guy that was an AE when I was an AE that is now the VP of sales at that first company that I was there. So he was there for almost 13 years. My first boss is still there.
Wow.
My friend that I went to Paris with last week, I met her on day one. We were sales reps together.
5 years then, what was your progression like? What did you move into in terms of roles and responsibility?
So I was an account executive, and then maybe 2.5 years into it, I became a senior account executive working on one region within the US and had 2 SDRs tied to me. And then after almost 5 years, then I wanted something different, and that's how I ended up at G2, the B2B review platform, as like the 6th or 7th account executive.
This was a move now from Chicago at the time, and this was a role eventually that would bring you to London.
Correct. When I interviewed at G2, Chicago was the headquarters. It was a nothing company. People didn't know what it was. They maybe had 5 million ARR under their belt. But interestingly enough, the thing that got me excited was during my interview process, Clay Betley and Olivier at the time asked me what I wanted. I'd mentioned I love sales, all these things, but then in a few years, I would love to figure out how to move to the UK.
Okay.
13-year-old me had this beautiful idea of moving to the UK. 21-year-old me went and visited London at one point. It was raining and pouring, fell in love. And then 26-year-old me was like, all right, if I do end up traveling and living abroad, I probably got to do it in the next few years. And they were probably overselling when they told me this during the interview, but they were like, yeah, of course, we're actually going to open up an office in London. And naive 26-year-old me believed it. But fast forward, after doing very well at G2, being able to see a Series A company at that point become Series B, Series C.
Yeah.
At 28, 29, after a couple of years under my belt, they opened up an office in London.
They did it.
Again, I think they were overselling at the time, but it actually happened. And that's when I was like, hi, remember that conversation 3 years ago? So they opened up an EMEA office, and I threw my hat in the ring to go and be an AE in London.
Wow. Wow. Which is a big step. Like, that's a huge commitment and desire from you. And I'm just amazed hearing you tell that story of coming to London and it's raining, which is a given, and it didn't put you off. What was the move like? Because it's not lost on me when I look at the CV, when I look at your LinkedIn, this is 2020. And you were just telling me actually that the role itself started in sort of February, which when we think back to that time, this is pretty much the start of the pandemic.
Correct. So I was supposed to move February 2020 to be an AE, and bought my ticket, sold all my stuff, got rid of my apartment. And then all of a sudden we started getting emails saying closing all the offices, don't come to work, blah, blah, blah. And the world shut down, right? And I thought, okay, well, I'm not going to move to London now if I can't go to work, I can't go to the gym, I can't go to the bar,
Can't have a life,
can't
really.
do anything.
Yeah.
So moved in with my boyfriend at the time. We were living together and started doing UK hours in Chicago, and was fine, happy. And then about a month in, my VP of sales, Enrique Moniz de Aragao, threw out this idea of being a team lead, even though I very much never, ever, ever wanted to manage a sales team. That was so uninteresting to me.
Why?
I just always thought that people that wanted to be managers were sales reps that were lazy and couldn't really sell.
Is that true?
Some could be. But I realized that the good ones did a lot more stuff. And to his credit, he did an actual very good job of selling to me. He positioned it to me. So he was also very new to the company.
Right.
Got him from Salesforce. So he actually didn't know much about how to actually sell G2.
Got it.
And his whole idea was, okay, Frances, you're coming to London eventually. You know more about G2 than I do. And let's be real, we're doing a hiring freeze. We had to let a few people go during COVID. So would you come and actually play around with this team lead position? Because maybe while I can't teach you about G2, I can't teach you how to sell, maybe I can teach you how to build a business.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
And then he dovetailed that with this idea of, okay, Frances, I know you don't love helping people. I know you don't love the idea of managing people, but you might not make money this year. What if instead of trying to make money off your customers and your prospects, your reps start becoming your customers and you can use them to make money? So he was able to really get into that key belief that I have of like, I only care about how to make money, commission checks, and dollar signs. And he was able to translate that into a way that actually helps him, helps the business, and helps me.
Good salesperson.
Absolute great salesperson. Wasn't just telling me that they're going to open up an office in hopes to get me in.
Yeah.
Like he was truly identifying that pain and selling me on it.
Yeah. So before we jump to physically moving, obviously you adjust to UK hours from Chicago, from where you are. What was that like?
Hours were fine. I've always been an early bird. I ended my day at noon every day, which was awesome.
Yeah. So you start at what time?
Like 3 or 4
a.m.
Yeah.
And then
I was done by noon. So that was fine. What was hard was coming in, supposedly being an AE, and then all of a sudden all of these peers, I somehow had to be a manager.
Yeah.
And it was no secret that I didn't want to be a manager. So there was that, how do I gain respect
Yeah.
without talking down to people? And again, I've never wanted to be a manager, so I didn't even know how to have these sorts of conversations because I had never thought about what it would be
What this
like,
looks
right?
like. Yeah.
I've never had a one-on-one with a previous manager to be like, teach me how to do the next step. Like, I was happy as a clam, just crushing leaderboards.
That was you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was really tough. And then coupled with the fact that never mind, I couldn't meet my team. I went from a 5 days a week in the office in Chicago with all of my friends that I have been selling with for 3 years to I am sitting in this kitchen while my boyfriend is playing Call of Duty in the background, and I'm trying to have very serious one-on-ones with my peers.
Yeah.
So that was really tough. And then I think the thing that really helped me was, one, I had been at G2 for so long, so I did actually have knowledge to share. But I stole this from Enrique's wife, who is also a badass sales leader in London, where she had me write down, what are the 3 things that you would love people to say about you in leadership? And I was like, okay, that's interesting. So I wrote those 3 things down, and I tried really hard every day to live up to those 3 things rather than what I thought a leader was. That really resonated with me. And then just coming more from a place of curiosity rather than telling people what to do. Because again, I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to be a manager. So who was I to tell people what to do?
It's a really interesting point. And
Yeah.
can you remember those 3 things that you wrote down in terms of what style or what type of leader you want to be?
Wanted to be the kind of person that's like a true teammate, like being like backing that person, backing that team. I wanted to also be somebody that everyone has this idea of leading from the front, like constantly leading from the front. Enrique was the first person that actually told me to sometimes lead from the back, letting people fail. Like, he was the one that was like, think about all the times that you really messed up. And those are the things you actually learn from.
Yeah.
So rather than being the sales rep that's carrying everything and trying to win all the time, sometimes maybe you do have to step back and lead from the back. So that really, I think that was on the second thing. And then the third thing was really like, get everybody to be the best that they can be.
Yeah.
Because again, I still had that AE hat on of, well, I want to be the best. I want to be number one. I want to make more commission. So yeah, at the time there was a lot of like how I think of an AE. And luckily a lot of that also translated into how do I want people to talk about me?
Were you wary of the fact that this was something that, by your own admission, isn't the role you actually wanted? Like, you were not thinking being a team lead. You weren't thinking about being a manager. Were you worried or concerned that your team may not give you the respect you deserve?
Well, to make it even more difficult, I was a player coach. So I still had an individual quota.
Right.
And I had a team quota. So not only was I balancing it as I never wanted to manage people, but I was still responsible for my own quota. So I couldn't let one drop. So the thing that was really helpful for me is I'm a very live and die by my calendar. I had this idea of, if a prospect puts time in my calendar first, that prospect gets it. If my rep puts that time in my calendar and, Salesforce comes in and Mark Benioff wants to talk, my rep will come first.
Yeah.
So I had that rule set in stone, and that I still live by that today.
Right.
Of whoever has that spot first
Yeah.
gets it. The only thing I am bad at is one-on-ones. I will move those.
Because?
Because my team knows I will find them.
Okay.
But whoever needs me first
Yeah.
is kind of the
First
thing.
come, first serve when it
Correct.
comes to Frances' time.
That was just an easy way to do it. But yeah, it was really hard. I suffered greatly from imposter syndrome. I still suffer from imposter syndrome. I think it was just really helpful in being honest with people too. Like, I told people over and over again that I didn't want to do this.
Right.
And when Enrique sold it to me the first time, he was also saying, let's do this for a year. Let's see if you like this. If you don't like it, you learn tons of great skills that will make you an even better sales rep, which was true. And he's like, and if you do like it, how cool that you were able to learn something about yourself and you found this new career trajectory that you would have never identified because you just didn't like something.
Talk to us about the move then when you actually were able to moved your entire life over from US to UK. What were your initial impressions? Did it live up to the, younger version of you that had the view of London and everything else? And from a work point of view, how easy or difficult did you find the adjustment?
From a work perspective, it got a lot better because I got to see people,
Yeah.
right? All of these people that I've been working with and
Teams with
coaching and
Zooms,
learning
yeah.
from, you see them in real life. Like I still remember that first time we went to a bar in South Bank and we all got to meet each other and we're,
Nice.
you're so tall, you're so short.
I
like,
knew that was
all
what
those
you were going to
things.
say.
So that was really great. And then selling to the rest of EMEA, obviously the hours were obviously a lot better.
Yeah.
And then moving to the UK was interesting. You guys say a lot of weird words. I tell everybody about my British to American dictionary.
I was gonna say, do you have one of these? You adding to it?
Yeah.
Are you still adding to it?
Constantly adding to it.
Okay. What went in there first? Like, what were some of the early entries in your? That's a weird British word.
The early entries, blacking out right now. But while I was waiting for this, I was slacking with my boss right now about what winding up is. And
Winding someone up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I was saying that somebody was winding me up, and he was really confused. And then I realized that it wasn't what we thought. I mean, that's a very G-rated version.
Yes. Okay.
So then there's also
okay.
PG-rated versions, PG-13 rated versions,
Got it.
and R-rated versions.
Got it. Talk to us a little bit more though about your experience managing the team then, in terms of you go in as team lead, you're taking those initial steps on your management career. Were there any sort of hurdles in the road? Any challenges that you face that you can share in terms of maybe things you got wrong?
Couple of things. So, interesting enough, like the selling part was fine and easy. I had been doing that for a while. So that was fun and exciting.
As in selling EMEA as opposed to US?
Yeah.
You found
there wasn't too much difficulty there. But the working with a team, I had one girl from Romania, one guy from France, one guy from the UK, one American. So having all of that international cultural stuff.
Yeah, melting pot,
and having to navigate one-on-ones, how direct to be with someone versus how to be softer or being more careful with my words, which interestingly enough is also something that I identified in the selling aspect too. In America, everyone's a lot more direct. Can you buy today? Can you sign the contract today? It was a very easy conversation.
Not so much in Europe?
No, I think I was able to get away with it because I didn't realize that it was an issue. Whereas I think working with on my one-on-ones and asking about deal reviews and identifying where deals were in the pipeline and why things were slowing, I was able to suss that out, that my reps felt it. So then the prospects felt it, and it was...
It goes both ways.
Correct.
Yeah. You're kind of manifesting it because you think it's there and therefore it becomes something, right?
Correct. Or even the thing that winded me up was the number of reps that I have that didn't have phone numbers of their prospects, and they were really relying on that prospect accepting the Zoom invite, and they would only be talking through the conference call, when I'm thinking, why can't you call them? And they're like, we can't ask them for their phone number. And I'm like, but you're asking them for $100,000, but you can't ask them for their phone number? I was very confused.
But why? Why do you think that is that something that is... Now, I'm curious, is that something that you find is EMEA? And maybe is a distinction between EMEA and US? Or is that something now more so about junior sales reps coming in that are less inclined to want to converse on a phone or, go for someone's number when they could have just gone over email or other forms or other channels?
So I think it's both. I think when I was growing up, 13 years ago, when I was selling, we were a cold calling only business, right? We didn't have the likes of a SalesLoft or an Outreach. No. We didn't have Cognism. We were going and using Google and an address book to find phone numbers.
The good old days.
Correct. So there's that. There's the age thing. But then cultural, because I've asked my reps, why are you asking for $100,000, but you're terrified to ask for a phone number? The number of responses I get that's just like, I'm too nervous to ask, or like, they'll get weird. I go, okay, and like literally the worst thing that they can say is
No.
no, and then you'll be
Move on.
fine.
Yeah.
Like move on. So yeah, I
Whereas the
think
potential upside is
correct.
almost instant access to this prospect, or in a channel that is far more immediate. Presumably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've had enough people tell me, and enough comedians make jokes about Americans that we're just so overly confident, like we're okay. And I do see it to that degree of I think there is that, like I just don't care. Like
Yeah.
I'll hear no.
Yeah.
Like
Move
it's
on.
fine.
I respect it. I think, certainly whether it's an American thing or just generally people who have a confidence to not really care so much what the other person might think or in how they interpret that situation. Do you think that's one of your traits, like your characteristics and qualities as a salesperson, but also as a manager?
100%. Which is why I'm actually doing performance reviews right now, and I get really anxious and nervous. I'm like, oh God. But again, the thing that I stole from Enrique 7 years ago or 5 years ago, whenever I started managing, is he said starting every conversation with intent, leading with intent.
Mm-hmm.
And that really resonated with me because if you tell people the reason why you're saying something, whether it's good or bad, all of a sudden people understand that underlying thing versus just saying, you suck. Why didn't you ask for the phone number? But adding simple words like, the reason I ask is, or I'm going to preface this conversation with, and oftentimes it's because I want you to be better. Wow, that saves a lot of uncomfortable
Context goes a long way, doesn't it? For sure. Talk to us about, you just mentioned there about cold calling, 12, 13 years ago was how you did it. What do you remember and what did you take from those cold calls, those difficult cold calls?
What really helped, which I now see a lot of people struggling with right now, if they're trying to bring a cold calling culture into their team, is when I was selling, it was 100 quota carriers on the floor. So you can't hear people, everyone, that buzz is just going. So there was no anxiousness. And the best part is when I was falling flat on my face, when somebody was telling me they're not interested or like, don't call me again, having somebody else being able to pull me aside and be like, hey, actually, I would have rephrased it that way has just been golden. Whereas, interestingly enough, when I first moved to London, it was during lockdown. Everybody's having their first cold call ever in the privacy of their own kitchen. So no one knows what they're saying. And they got used to that for 2-3 years. And then now being in an office, they're going to run into a booth. They're going to run into a conference room.
Somewhere away
because they're so afraid of what people are saying.
Interesting, yeah.
So luckily for me, I was able to start my sales career in a culture where that was the norm and that was the thing. So I'm lucky in that I don't remember a lot of the painful cold calls. I remember more of like my big close losts that were really difficult.
Was it disappointment because you'd invested a lot of time into a potential deal and it fell away? Or why do they still perhaps come back to you now as things you remember from that period?
They resonate with me and they stay with me because I now use them as tools for when I'm working with my reps.
Nice.
It's so cliche and gross and cringy when people talk about you learn more from your losses than your wins, but it's so, so true. Yeah. And even if that deal that I lost can't necessarily perfect my rep's current deal today, there's like a sense of empathy that I have for them that I don't think I would have had if it wasn't for all those losses because I've been there. It's so painful. So yeah, it's really, I'm able to now channel it into like, how can I make this person in front of me better based off of not remembering someone's phone number, not asking for someone's phone number, or not multi-threading, all of these very simple things that I've now just been able to add to my toolkit over the years.
Speaking now then as someone who's been managing and leading teams for a good few years, have you learned to love it?
Yes.
You have fully converted. You're on the other side then. But when did you think that happened?
There were a couple checkpoints that I do recall. One being when my first promotion from an SDR to join my team as an AE, Carl Ritchie joined and he got his first deal. I can't even remember the value. It was probably like $5,000. It was probably like fuck all money. But when he closed his first deal, It was also via Zoom because we still were in COVID, so we never saw each other. He was so, so, so excited, and seeing that genuine happiness, I'll always remember that. He told me it was probably maybe 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. I go, do you have any alcohol in
Yeah.
your
Any
in your
high-end
apartment?
whiskeys
Any
in the
high-end
nearby,
whiskeys?
yeah.
At 21 years old, making 30 grand a year. And he brought something, maybe cough syrup. And he's like, I have it. And I was like, great. I poured myself also a shot of Jameson, and we did a cheers on Zoom. And after that, I now take every single one of my reps when they close the first deal to the
Nice.
bar when they get their first deal in.
So it's a little tradition that you have
Yeah.
instilled. Okay, this is a nice reflection as well, I think, on your days selling high-end whiskey as well.
Yeah.
So you continued what was there for you.
So that was definitely a checkpoint. And then that less specific moment, but I can sort of feel it, is that because I had an IC quota and I have my manager quota.
Right.
And there was a few months and moments where I started getting more excited about seeing those reps hitting their numbers than myself.
Got it.
Which was a very strange feeling for me because I only like to win all the time and I only like thinking about me. So seeing a Matt
You
Brown
surprised
and a
yourself.
Matt Gales, all
Yeah.
of a sudden do so well, really got me excited. But then fast forward to now, the thing that makes me realize, okay, this is why I like management more than being an IC, is I get letters, texts, LinkedIn messages from reps over the years messaging me and telling me, thanks for blah, blah, blah. Thanks for that thing you told me. Or I just got promoted to this thing. So I have all these people that not only crushed it working with me, but are now doing better than me and making more money than me.
But you're not bitter about that. No. But you're proud. You feel
So
like
proud.
you feel like you've invested in them. You've seen them grow, and I actually think that's certainly from a manager's point of view, is less about getting them to be the best for the company in that particular time, but actually realizing their potential, which may well mean they move on. Like in all likelihood, they might end up being somewhere else and thriving. But as a manager at that time in their life, you were able to, at least in small part, help them on their way, right?
I tell everyone, I do not want you dying at G2. I do not want you dying at Zinc. I really hope that you leave me for something way cooler and better than this. But let's crush it now.
Yeah. And let's get you there.
Yeah.
So talk to us a little bit about what you look for, in terms of salespeople today. What are some of the hard skills, soft skills that you are, absolutely looking for? And what mistakes do you see some people still making in that process?
I know we're talking about dating later, but a lot
Are
of
we?
a lot of how I interview and how I recruit is the same qualities that I look
No,
for
I love this,
when
yeah.
I'm dating, right? I look for consistency. I hate when AEs are telling me about how they crushed their first quarter and this is the reason why they should get promoted. Or I hate when reps are telling me that they were the number one rep at a company and they've only been there a year. Or they were number one on a team of 3.
Because you're not buying it. Like it just
doesn't show consistency. And in the same
Right.
vein, like I would look for that in a partner. Like I want somebody
Yes.
that is constantly doing the thing every single day, grinding it out, right? Hitting their metrics, their KPIs. I'm actually okay with seeing a dip or seeing low numbers in a quarter. If anything, I would think that's a red flag if they've never seen that.
Yeah.
I want somebody that can ride with me and shows that consistency, both for the highs and the lows, because that's also going to show me how long will they be with me.
Yeah.
Because while I don't want you to die here on this team, I very much need you for more than a quarter or more than a year. And then I'm also looking for both teachers and learners, right? I want somebody, everybody's always talking about, are you coachable? Or always look for coachability. But I'm always thinking, well, what's the last thing that you taught somebody? And it doesn't necessarily have to be sales related, but if you can tell me about a time that you taught someone something, even if you are 21 years old, fresh out of college or university, that tells me that one, you will be able to teach me something, but more importantly, you'll be able to teach the team something. And I need that for my team because while I got into sales because I loved the lone wolf mentality, being number one. Looking back, I realized a lot of my biggest deals were closed because of a team effort. So I need team players.
Yeah. Do you find that though that is hard to find in some salespeople?
I think most salespeople would also put themselves in that category. A lot of the really good salespeople put themselves in that category. But it's important to me, regardless of whether one person feels like they are or not, I need them to be like that in the team. And the way that I do that is very early on. I'm constantly putting together team workshops that require reps to ask questions and poke holes into one another's deals.
Right.
I love holidays. So for like St. Patrick's Day, we had a team event at the pub where we drank lots of Guinness and Jameson. But I asked everybody to get in a circle and cut out using green wrapping paper to hand cut a shamrock.
Okay.
While telling everybody about their deal. And it was funny, it was silly, but people really got into it. Really putting people in that environment of you have to talk, you have to tell us about your wins, you have to talk about your losses. Telling people, okay, today you're going to present in front of the team to not only us, but our VP of finance of I need every step-by-step of what happened to this deal that you lost and where did you fuck up. So I'm constantly creating those environments to be collaborative to the point that it actually becomes then natural when I'm not there and not telling people to cut up a shamrock and drink Guinness.
Let's say we have an SDR listening to this right now and they're desperate to get on the ladder towards becoming an AE. What advice would you give them to really focus on and make that a reality?
It's tough, right? Because oftentimes there's a lot more SDRs than there are AE roles. It's a funnel, right?
Yeah.
And if you want to be a sales director, you want to be a CRO, it only gets smaller and smaller. So again, very cliche, but where are you sticking out, right? How are you shining? One of the guys that I just promoted from SDR to AE, Joe Watkins, he truly was first one in, last one out.
Yeah.
I don't love the question that people ask me when they say, oh, this generation, or how do you feel about Gen Zers? I go, I don't relate to that at all because the guy on my team that is first one in, last one out, without being asked, without being told, is 22 years old.
Are there other metrics or other things that folks can do to stand out?
So definitely numbers, to do anything in sales and say that it doesn't matter. That if anything, that's part of the reason I got into sales is I love that hard line of you know where you stand because I put your name on a dashboard. So there's that. But then in terms of additional soft skills, again, it goes back to even when I hire from externally, as well as dating, what can you teach me? Where are you making a difference? Are you going out of your way to also be cross-departmental? Are you doing those extra tasks that I might not be able to identify as a sales manager, right? And yes, I am here to help you and be supportive, but how also nice if you can also make my life easier and bring me solutions rather than problems.
Yeah.
That's super great. Interestingly enough, I just got off all day Wednesday of interviews of SDR pod leaders.
Right.
So they're creating, mini team
little
leads
teams.
on the SDR front. And one of the questions that every SDR really struggled with was, what is SDR teams in London doing better than what we're doing? And I got
Crickets.
That
speaks volumes as well as to their capacity to, like you say, be curious and ask questions and be engaged. You're a strong believer in mentorship as well. And maybe this is something that's come along as part of your time here in the UK and moving into management. I mean, you talk about this actually a lot on your LinkedIn. So why do you think that's important?
Mentorship is so important because unlike me, a manager or somebody at your company, in many ways, they kind of don't give a shit, right? Yeah. Your success is not their success.
They're not personally invested in this in any way, shape, or form, right?
They don't know your industry.
Yeah.
They don't know who Frances is. They don't know who your annoying coworker is, which is just so refreshing, which is why I love the mentors that I've had because they're so separated. But then beyond that, again, I tell my team all the time, I don't want you dying here at Zinc. Go find mentors elsewhere because maybe those people will remember you when they're looking for a new AE at a next job.
Yeah.
Or maybe they'll coincidentally be connected to
Yeah.
one of your prospects.
Yeah.
London tech is small. SaaS is small.
Yeah.
Having as many people on your team
Yeah, yeah.
and excited for you that can teach you things
Mm-hmm.
and give you that social equity goes
Yeah.
a million miles.
100%. So have you always had mentors through your career, and have you always sought them out?
When I was conflicted and coming up on my 5th year at G2 was, okay, I've been at G2 for 5 years now. What do I do next? So I was like, oh, who do I ask for? I obviously can't ask my boss at the time of like, hey, I'm thinking about leaving. So I started just cold outreaching
Really?
VPs of sales and CROs all over London tech and sending them messages of, hi, Alex, I love your background. I want to
meet?
be something similar to that. Can I grab you for half an hour?
Right.
Holy shit, my conversion rate was phenomenal. I was like, I never had this conversion rate when I asked you to buy my shit. But all of a sudden,
If I'm buying you a coffee.
and people love to talk about themselves.
There is that.
Their ego is, they're like, of course I can talk about, like, I just ended up having more conversations that I had bandwidth for from these beautiful, wonderful, smart sales leaders all around London that at the end of those conversations, they were like, by the way, I also might be hiring in the next year. Or, by the way, I actually know this person.
So did that lead to the role at Zinc?
Not that one specifically, but definitely tons of interviews.
Sure.
It led to just great conversations,
Yeah,
mentors that I use all the
Even
time
now.
now, or like back channeling, things like that.
Are you looking for people who inspire you? You know, maybe are in job titles that you would love to be at, or a company that you would love to be at. Is that a good way of thinking, who can mentor me? Or do you need to be slightly more strategic? Like, what would your advice be?
One, it's what are you looking for? Like, what do you ultimately need help with? At the time, I needed help with, oh my gosh, I am thinking about leaving the cozy comfort bubble of this beautiful company that I've been with for so long, sent me to the UK, made me a manager, all these things. But I do want to go back to a smaller organization.
Right.
So on LinkedIn, I was looking for London tech profiles of people that have been at same size companies for 5-7 years that then gave up on that very cozy Salesforce and, Zendesk and SalesLoft logos for something small and risky.
Yeah.
How did they deal with that? How was, that sort of thing?
What was it that was getting you, I want something different, into your words, something risky?
Yeah, I was approaching that 5th year. I got my 1-month sabbatical, which was fun, but I wasn't getting that high off of seeing my reps close deals anymore.
Right.
I also found myself for a little bit, this probably sounds worse than it is, but like not being as a nice person and not being those 3 things that I wrote down several years later.
The leader you wanted to be.
Yeah. And that makes you feel really bad when you are not that you.
Yeah. Was that because you were feeling a certain kind of way?
For context, when I was at G2, this was maybe 100 employees. We were in one tiny office, 6th or 7th AE. And by the time I left G2, so I left G2 at almost 6 years, it was 700 people.
Yeah.
5 or 6 different offices at that point. I was kind of doing the same thing every single day. Conversations weren't necessarily changing. I didn't get to see those incremental impact that I saw when we were a much smaller company. Yeah. And I also just wanted to see if I could do it again, or did I just get lucky and landed a great company? Yeah. So I wanted to see if I could do it again and like see what I was made out of.
Yeah, absolutely. And how does it compare then being at Zinc? Just tell us, for those that aren't familiar necessarily with what you guys do.
So Zinc is a global background check provider. So as you just said, shortage based, a couple blocks from here. But we do international background checks as well.
Right.
And I always had this beautiful idea of, I want to move a US company into EMEA, and I would love to move a UK company into America.
Right.
And there were just so many similarities, definitely different industry, very compliance type software versus MarTech, sexy software that was G2. But the stage that they were at was very similar. There were 4 AEs at the time.
Right, so smaller.
Very much smaller. And then what really, really got me was when I had my interview with the now CRO, Patrick White, I really fell in love with the kind of business and the kind of team that he wanted to build. And this idea of not just hitting a company target, but wanting every single person to be hitting targets and wanting to have not only a hardworking, competitive team, but one that is collaborative and leads with empathy. And there was just a lot of similarity in terms of how he wants to build teams with how I had already been trying to build teams previously.
I want to go back now to something you mentioned earlier. This is the sales and dating comparisons. This is something you talk about on your LinkedIn. So if people don't follow you on LinkedIn already, they should, because there's lots of advice, but also lots of comparisons to the dating world. When did it occur to you that that's something that you see a lot of similarity in? And why is that the case?
How I realized it was I'm really not that interesting. Not only have I only done tech sales my entire life, all of my friends are in tech sales.
Oh, really? Okay.
I have
this
zero,
is your world.
Yeah, I have zero diversity in my life. It's really sad. So throughout my entire sales career, right, I'm with salespeople and we're bitching about our flops in dating and the highs and the lows. And I just realized over the years that these are the same conversations that I'm having on one-on-ones with account reviews and my boss about deals and prospects, as well as one-on-ones that I have in terms with career progression. And there's just so much overlap. And then why it matters and why I think that it's a really good analogy is I think that sometimes concepts within sales, and quite frankly, a lot of concepts in any industry tend to be really abstract and tough for somebody that has never experienced that or has never had to cold call or whatever that might be. But then if you can relate it to something that they definitely have an interest or have experience with, it lands so much better. And when I started coaching reps and having mentees and giving them this context of it's like dating, there was this light bulb moment. And I saw that over and over again. And I was like, there's something. I'm onto something.
This has landed. This works. What maybe is something you can tell our audience that you would like to leave in 2025 in the world of sales or dating?
The overthinking everything, which I guess then parallel. Overthinking everything. Like, should I call this person? Should I email? Did I do this? Shoot, like you said at the beginning, shoot your shot. The worst thing that people can say is no. And be okay with no, because hearing no once and clamming up and being like, I'm never going to try that ever again, that's not helpful. And that doesn't give you any data in terms of, does it actually work? Like, put those reps in.
We've kind of talked a little bit about deals lost, deals won. Can you tell us about biggest deal you've closed? Like what that looks like, what that was?
I'm blanking on the biggest deal that the name of it. I can see it in my head. I can see Gloria. That was my prospect. Hi, Gloria. It was my first multi-year deal.
Okay, wow.
Which at the time of G2, because it was very much a nice to have, not a need to have.
That
was a tough sell to ask somebody for not only
big commitment,
like, $100,000, I need this, but then to also say I need that in year 2 and year 3 as well. And I think what really resonated with me, other than I love Gloria, is that was the first time that I had that true belief that team selling is the way to go. Being able to bring in my sales manager, Michelle at the time, being able to bring in product people, tech people early on, quite frankly, bring in another AE that was a peer of mine just to be another set of ears and another set of eyes was so, so helpful. And I mean, I steal this from somebody else, but one of my coworkers told me, yes, Frances, like as AEs, we get to hit the gong, but it's not really our gong to hit. It's many, many a hands touch that. So, and of course, when I saw that commission check, then I was like, yes, team selling all the way.
This pays off.
Yes.
This is the best one. Flip that round then in terms of, maybe it doesn't have to be the biggest deal you lost, but the one that really sticks in your mind is like the one that got away.
Also can't remember the name of the company, but Victor, definitely remember.
You remember your prospects as opposed to the logo.
Yeah. Which actually helps in a certain way.
You personalize. This is the dating approach, perhaps. It's less about what they do as opposed to who they are, right?
Correct.
Okay. So Victor,
Victor.
He got away.
Yeah. Because, and again, this is sales 101, I was single-threaded right?
Okay. Okay.
I love Victor. Victor loved me. In another world, we would have dated. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, it was single
You
threaded.
didn't get to know his friends.
Didn't get to know his friends. It was a bummer.
Yeah.
Really bad. And of course, he went to another company.
Yeah.
And the worst part, which I also realized, not only is it super important to be multi-threaded early on, but be careful with how much a prospect likes you, because prospects that love you are also afraid to tell you no, which is very much like dating, right? People end up in these shitty situations for eons and eons because we're so afraid of telling each other hard truths. And Victor probably would have been able to tell me earlier on in the sales cycle that he was looking elsewhere, or maybe not something that direct, but he clearly liked me so much that he was so afraid to say anything, never responded to anything when he was ultra responsive throughout that entire sales process before. And for that reason, I didn't hit my quarter,
That's
right?
really interesting. Yeah.
Like, ouch.
One thing you love working in SaaS, like what's the best thing about working or selling in the SaaS industry?
Super cheeseball, but I really like the people.
People you work with, people you're selling to, like what?
I love salespeople. Like, I love how fast they are and smart they are and how cocky they are and how interesting they are and how curious they are. And I think being in SaaS and being in sales has made me appreciate London more. I don't know if I would have been here for 5 years if it wasn't for how great that I think SaaS salespeople are.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome to hear. Okay, and then let me just be the devil's advocate. What do you hate about working in sales, or what do you hate about SaaS?
I think if you're not careful, right, you live in a bubble.
Yeah.
Right? Like I said earlier, my friends are not that diverse.
Yeah.
You end up living in a bubble. I'm very lucky, and a lot of the salespeople I know lead with a lot of empathy. But I think, unfortunately, maybe that's unique. And I really, really, really wish people bought more into this idea of team selling and being really careful with the relationships and what you say to people, because that stuff sticks around, both positive and negative. So just like be really nice to people.
Yeah. Final one from me then is, what's next for you, Frances?
I don't want to die here.
You've said that expression a lot, by the way. I don't want anyone to die here. I don't want anyone to die on this podcast, because that is not good for me or Surf. But maybe less morbid. What is your 5-year plan look like? Are you sticking around in London or at Zinc, or what's the plan?
I cashed in a few commission checks and bought a place, so I'll stick around for a little bit.
Nice.
Yeah, I would love to have the same story that I had with G2 be, at Zinc for a few more years.
Nice.
I want to then find one more Series A, Series B, early stage startup and be able to have that growth trajectory and build up a company that has some sort of international name.
Okay, watch this space, folks.
Yeah.
And I think the best thing to do, if they're not already, is to give you a follow on LinkedIn, at the very least, to follow this journey along, and for the hot takes on sales and dating, because there's definitely some parallels that exist there. Look, we're at time for this week's episode of Sales Rewritten. So thank you so much for joining us here today. Hope you enjoyed it.
So fun.
Been good fun. It's been great to hear about your story and everything else. So thank you to Frances Arville, our guest on episode 4 of Sales Rewritten, and for telling her story from the US to the UK. It has been quite the journey. So thank you for listening along here today. Please do take a moment to rate our podcast wherever you are finding us today, at Surf HQ on YouTube, or Sales Rewritten on Spotify and Apple Music. I'm Alex Wood. Thank you so much for listening this week. And remember, good sales, it's not about closing faster, it's about showing up smarter. We'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.